Hey, look at that. You can see my oily shirt. So this is the AMA Blizzard developers did today. They answered some questions. I have 4 people decided. Well, it's technically 5 people, but the 5th guy didn't answer anything. So the 4 people, basically, I pulled up their accounts on Reddit, and we'll go through all of their comments on this patch or this thread. So we have Noah, J Noah, lead balance designer Alex, lead hero designer, associate game designer Tess, and system designer Winter. Andy B didn't answer any questions on this thread, so he just kind of set it up. So, first thing we're going to do is we're just going to run down this. This is Noah, Josh, I think is his first name, lead balance designer. So, question is, how's Mercy's pick rate and win rate been since their changes? How does she find herself in the hero roster after these changes? Any plans for GA cooldown? Yada yada. Mercy. So, Mercy stayed about the same as before. The changes were mostly neutral in terms of power. Her win rate is still around 51 to 52%. There's a small drop in pick rate from 9 to 8%. Her damage taken statistic increased by like 4 or 5%, but her average death stayed the same. Likely we can attribute this to the new passive at work, and taking more damage due to the longer GA cooldown. We don't have any further changes planned for Mercy at this moment. We feel once it settles, we'll see how it is at that time. Also, the meta is quite different, so it was very surprising that Mercy wasn't impacted overall. There's been sentiment about players feel like they can more fairly try to counter Mercy. At the same time, its reduction of ability is going to feel bad for Mercy players. So, I mean, this is interesting, at least statistically wise, and I don't like relying. I'll just be very frank with this. Numbers lie. If anyone tells you numbers don't lie, tell them they're fucking stupid. Because numbers lie. They tell you whatever story I want you to be told. That's what numbers do. But it is interesting. Oh, down there, Mike. It is fairly interesting that only her pick rate was affected. Death stayed the same. She took more damage, but she still stayed. She still lived, which is she's taking more damage. Cool. Interesting idea. Now I'll just say this is one of the stupider ones on this, and we're starting out strong. How do you feel about snipers at the moment? Sometimes they feel oppressive to play against a good Widow, and with one tank, it's not as simple as getting a D.Va or Winston to dive on them. Are players effectively able to counter snipers without simply having a better sniper now in 5v5? He's like, I was looking at Widowmaker's stats just last week, and again, stats are really driving everything for them. I think Overwatch could be balanced with, like, if-then statements, and if win rate goes above this, modify something by, like, 5%, and you would probably have what Blizzard's doing, more or less. You could automate most of Blizzard's changes, which is really bad, because it's not about how the game feels, and I know we just had changes to Hog and Junkrat based on feeling, but it's really funny that snipers are never affected by feeling. Basically, the favorite tanks aren't affected by, all the community's favorites are never affected by feelings, but only data. Yet everything else is always like, oh no, this feels poor, this is bad. It's a bit bullshit. They may not say there's popularity, but this is going to prove that there is. So they say, hey, it's mainly a map balance discussion. It's interesting that current map pool, there are 4 to 5 maps where Widowmaker was really effective. 4 to 5 maps where she's quite bad or rarely picked. And then there are the rest she was playable, but not particularly great. For anyone wondering, her worst maps were 2 push maps and 3 of the control maps. Her best were 3 payloads and 2 hybrids. Snipers feel quite counterable to me at this moment, but it's certainly something we keep a close eye on to make sure they don't get out of hand. I think instances where snipers feel oppressive to play against are really memorable, as it's typical human nature to remember the bad more than the good. At least for me, it's rare that I remember when the enemy Widowmaker was ineffective and swapped versus often she was dominated. Again, I think this is a really, really stupid argument. I don't really care about his personal feelings and how he's like, oh yeah, no, I remember when she was really good, but I don't remember when she's really bad. And actually, I remember when we forced Widows to swap. So that's always a really good feeling. And the thing is when he says counterable, it's really weird because in some of the other dev interviews, they'll be like, oh, no, snipers aren't bad. You just go dive. And understand when you go dive, that doesn't mean you go one hero. That means you have to change 5 heroes. And if I have to change 5 fucking heroes to deal with one hero, that one hero is overpowered. Just no questions asked. If this was a MOBA, a hero like this would always be banned 100% of the time. Because if I can pick one hero and I dictate your entire lineup, that gives me 4 heroes to pick from to deal with your lineup directly. And then I win because I picked the one hero that you're forced to deal with everyone. This is completely broken. This is like when old Doom DPS couldn't be stopped until you went like Brig, Hog, Cassidy, stuff like that. Like you put 3-4 stuns together and then Doom did nothing. And people are like, oh, that's balanced. Doom's not good against everyone stunning. And I'm like, well, then that's fucking dumb. A hero shouldn't be based on if he takes full control away from hero or if someone takes full control away from him. So I think this is really stupid. Snipers are incredibly powerful. They are probably some of the most powerful things in the game. And the only thing that makes them quote-unquote counterable is changing a lot of stuff. They dominate. Hitscan dominates Overwatch. And what makes it worse is that because map design is really restricted in Overwatch, like Blizzard doesn't make very creative maps. I'll just say that. Everything's kind of the same. They don't allow flanks without being seen. There's a lot of rules they stick to, and it really inhibits design. If we look at Battle Royales introduce everything being a projectile. Why? Because they have to. Because the maps are gigantic. They want big, open, wide maps. They want sight lines. They want all this other cool stuff. And when you have harder to hit scan, aka projectiles, it means you can take fights at different parts of the map. And different parts of the map fight completely differently, but usually everything's very viable. Right now in Overwatch, every map comes down to 3 or 4 corners, and that's about it. Like, really, every fight feels the same because it's the same corner doing the same shit all at the same time. If everyone was projectile, I'm not saying they should do this, but this is the concept. If everyone was projectile, all of a sudden, like, maybe I hold in the middle of an area. Maybe I hold some awkward position that now that hits can't just immediately kill me, I can actually hold that. So if you want to talk about changing how Overwatch feels the most, that would be it. Because then you could change where you take fights. And each point wouldn't be boiled down to 3 or 4 fights. Or each map be boiled down to 3 or 4 corners that you fight on. And then you just have these areas where people just push through normally and then you let them to go into the next choke. So I don't care if you believe snipers are counterable or not. I think they do more harm than good to the game. So I think this is a really stupid thing to say. Also, snipers are one-shots, and we're like, let's get rid of one-shots. We're like, snipers. And we're just like, whoa. We didn't say all one-shots. What would snipers be without one-shots? I don't know, turn them into something else. And they're just like, no response. So, and here is another thing. So this right here confirms popularity, kind of, sort of, to me. Because it's like, all right, well, if a sniper was more effective on more maps, maybe they would nerf her. But they're fine with the hero being overpowered every now and then because they like them. While if Junkrat's good on 4 to 5 maps, he gets nerfed, right? Because they don't like him. During my time playing Overwatch, people discuss balance and notice a theme of certain heroes being somewhat beloved by the community, referring to heroes like Reinhardt, Winston, Tracer, Lucio, and Ana, who everyone seems happy with being meta and ranked. Meanwhile, there are heroes like Roadhog, Doomfist, and Moira that everyone hates. When discussing balance internally, are these community sentiments about evergreen heroes ever talked about? Is there ever an attempt to make sure they are always toward the more powerful end of the hero spectrum? Yes. And how do you approach discussing and changing these less popular heroes? Is there more care involved? Great question. We're certainly aware of the heroes in the community generally more receptive to being meta, though we don't specifically plan around them, trying to make them the most powerful. This is completely false. Jeff Kaplan said this. He said it out loud. He said, well, you guys wouldn't let us nerf your precious dive hero, so we made Brig. And how well did that work out for you? I think he said that verbatim. I may have messed up the last two words or something, but he definitely said we weren't allowed to nerf your precious dive heroes. So, they definitely have favoritism. Jeff Goodman also stated, bam, he said Torb, I think this was in the SVB talk, he said, oh no, Torb's, he was average power, but people didn't like him, so we had to nerf him. And then he said, oh, there's no way we can nerf Ana, she's way too popular. Then we have Hog and Junkrat that people didn't like their mechanics, aka not popular. It's not about, it's really funny. They'll say, oh, it's a sore spot for the community, it's annoying, or there's not fun mechanics, is what they say. And what they mean by that is the hero's not. So we know this is quite clearly a lie. A pain point, there you go. There are usually already popular heroes that we played regardless of their underlying strength at any time. Many of these heroes have an advantage of having been available since the original game launch and are more accepted because of it. That's a lie. I don't think people will be more accepting of Sojourn if she was as broken as she was. People are still not accepting of Brig because of how she was launched with. And she's been available for a long time. So that's not a fucking advantage at all. Fun exercise. Imagine launch heroes being released today and what the community's perception to them would be. Junkrat would be considered weak. The primary goal with hero balance is try to get every hero to be viable at the top end of the competitive ladder. Masters the top 500, within a range of statistically viability since it's a measurable goal. This is fucking dumb. I get that they're like, oh, it's balanced. We have data to prove it's balanced. But at the same time, it's like, oh, if I run Junkrat in top 500 game and everyone's like, you shouldn't play that hero. Yeah, it's not measurable, but that's not viable. We also try to keep a handle on any significant outliers at lower skill tiers as well as large community pain points. So, again, they are definitely biased. These two posts show they're biased. Sometimes wonder how insane you people find the community's balancing ideas, and you balance with upcoming heroes in mind. I love seeing engagement with the community. It means they're passionate about the game. There are many great ideas that generate discussion for us, or at least help us inform us of the current community sentiments. Downside is that it can be disappointing for them when they don't see their suggested taken directly. Many players don't consider the game balanced ecosystem as a whole and focus entirely on their own experience with a particular hero and how to make that one hero stronger or feel better to play. Which is fine. It's good to understand what specialists think of their hero. But yeah, you don't take that super into consideration, but it is interesting to be like, this guy's a specialist with Widow, and for some reason, they always get dominated by a McCree. Or a Cassidy, sorry. From that standpoint, it is very interesting when you have a specialist and they can't find an answer to a certain hero. For the second part of the question, we do think about upcoming heroes or changes and how they relate to the current roster. For example being, we didn't make changes to Roadhog, who was underperforming because we knew Kiriko Cleanse could potentially make him more viable. It did, and that Jungle Queen Ashima was going to be really strong without that cleanse as well. Okay. It's a quicker patch schedule, relegating the experiment card to history. What's the most insane change user hero you've tried out internally? So the experimental card was useful because patches were further apart, months versus weeks. I'm still befuddled by the fact that Blizzard did such a poor job of patching Overwatch. The patch for Season 3 start is what I would expect every month. Truth be told. I would expect the start of the season patch to hit 80 to 90% of the heroes, and then the mid-cycle patch to be like 50% of the heroes. The turnaround time to have it patched and reacted to between releases means it isn't really feasible as a testing and upcoming live patches sort of thing. So okay, so there we go. So that's why they're not using the experimental card. Good information. The most polarizing changes are usually during the hero prototype or rework phase rather than anything for live balance. There have been a lot. The ones that immediately come to mind are Sombra Hack reducing max health for a minute, Wrecking Ball knocking down enemies when he rolls over, and D.Va having an ability to tether and drag enemies with her mech. Launching them tethered with her ult was hilarious and neat. What's your opinion on Pharah Mercy? Are there any intention of making Pharah more viable without a Pocket Mercy and less annoying with a Pocket Mercy? It's an interesting one since I often play Pharah even without Mercy, so I'm probably biased there. Pharah is a hero that is tough to find buffs for, and she performs better on the stats side than most, so it always becomes a question if she ever needs changes. She is quite situational as a pick, but very capable in taking over the game in the right circumstances, and is sort of a harder skill check for the enemy team than most heroes in terms of trying to counter. I wouldn't put all that on the Mercy combo, but it is very possible. So it's funny because they're saying what I said for the longest time. I said, hey, counters are always a lower skill mechanic beating a higher skill mechanic, and the one counter to that example is Pharah. She requires a bit of skill to take out as a quote-unquote counter. Right, because Winston deals with Genji, Hanzo deals with Bastion, Pharah deals with Junkrat, Rico deals with it's a mechanical decision. Like McCree or Cassidy when he had stun throws a stun at Tracer. Like it's always a decision based ability that counters in a skill, like a mechanical skill. That's how Overwatch was designed. Read my thing from 6 or 7 years ago. At this point, I called it out a long time ago. So it's nice that I was correct. I will say this. I don't like how they're like, oh, they're situational picks, so that's good. We don't want situational picks. You do not want answers. If Pharah is required, if she is a situational pick and she's very strong on a map, just as if Widow is strong on another map, and that hero is required, then that's bad design. It's okay if some heroes are stronger than others a little bit, but if they are required as an answer, then there's no difference than having a hero that's required in all games or having a hero that's required on specific maps. It is not true diversity as if we have each hero being played on the same amount of maps. I'll say that. Because you're still forced in an answer every time you play a game, right? If I play Numbani, I'm like, well, I want to play Junkrat. And they're like, no, you have to run this lineup. That's the official lineup. It's like, all right, well, I still got an answer and it still feels like shit. We've considered potentially reworking Pharah to make her more interactive, but it would be a dicey one since to make a big change there would likely mean she has to lose the airtime she is capable of. Her design started as the rocket launcher hero, but identity quickly shifted away from always flying hero. I called this out a long time too. Not just tooting my own horn here, but I called this out a long time ago because Pharah wasn't able to maintain 100% airtime originally. I think it took till season 3 or 4 until they gave her the buff. It was like plus 25% to her rocket thruster power that allowed it. And I always said Pharah should have 150 health, 100 armor. She should have an ability that she basically after not taking damage for like 5 or 6 seconds, she starts regenerating her armor back. But reduce her rocket thrusters by 35 or 40%. Essentially, force Pharah to land for 3 to 4 seconds. And because she has the armor, she can then take an engagement with a hit scan, and then she goes back up to flying for like another 6 to 10 seconds. Right? Essentially, you just allow this cycle where she's not always flying, and she has a weak point, but she's still overall stronger because of it. Next one. Oh, no. Okay, so that was it. So, now we listen to lead hero design. That was lead balance designer before. So this is the hero designer. How often do you consider introducing new abilities to a hero's kit like you did with D.Va's micro missiles and Hanzo's jump? And what heroes are you believe in need of this? When looking at adding to a hero or reworking them, you can first ask, can we achieve the desired gameplay changes within their current kit and abilities? The GA meter for Mercy in Overwatch 2 is a good example of adding something new within her present abilities. If we can't solve for desired gameplay within what we have, we'll next ask if there is room on the hero for something brand new. We're currently asking those questions for Roadhog and Sombra. If we end up doing new abilities for either of them, it'll take some time. I'd expect small holdover changes like the ones in our Season 3 patch. Makes sense. Right, and you do kind of want to have this efficiency. You know, like, don't redesign a hero if you can just change 1 or 2 abilities. Because changing an entire hero, just think about all the sound, the visual effects, the sound effects, everything about the hero that you're trying to change. I feel like the community sometimes loses patience waiting for balance changes because they do not fully understand what you're doing behind the scenes to balance the game. and therefore how long it needs to take. What are the different roles in your teams, the methods and timelines you typically work y'all do in order to balance the game? I love these questions. So for a simpler one, Orisa's Fortified nerf, 125 to 75, and something like Brig's upcoming Ultimate nerf. Say we wanted to do something simple like Orisa Fortified. The balance team would make the decision and inform other groups. The producer, QA, live ops, that the change is coming and will require a hotfix. Then the designer will go into Orisa's scripts and make the change and submit. At that point, QA and live ops are notified. QA tests the change and make sure it's all good, and live ops will then get the build process going. We usually let hotfix occur the next day, so overall a small change like this takes about 2 days. Critical changes can happen faster, but hotfixes have a chance to introduce a small amount of instability. What I don't like, okay, like it's great. If a change takes 2 days, fucking roll it out. I hate that we wait 2 weeks to maybe a month on a small change that they know they want to do within 2 or 3 days. Like, just push it out instant. You don't have to do these things in big bangs. Just like when they were storing content to release at specific times in Overwatch 1, and they wanted to release stuff more throughout the whole process like in Overwatch 2, same thing with balance. Just fucking balance the game. There's nothing wrong if you're like, Orisa's really strong right now, we're nerfing her armor by 75. Nothing wrong with that. For the Brig Rally changes involve other teams, so we start off with a similar origin point. The change could involve various art disciplines, VFX, modeling, etc., or sound, and now it's important that we can fit on their calendar. Design mocks up the change, shows it to art, sound, so we get an estimate of how big the ask is, and hopefully slots the change in for future seasons. Since our other disciplines are working on so many things, such a change may not happen the next season or even the season after. It's dependent on how big your ask is. How much lead time design is giving the affected teams, how much bandwidth those teams have, etc., etc. Can take anywhere from a month to 6 months. Right, they've been talking about the Brig change for a while, and they said the visual and sound is what's really doing. It's taking a long time. That's cool. I mean, I get it. It's a business, and they kind of got their silos. But man, I wish balance was first and foremost. And I know I'm biased as like a player, they would say, and not a designer. And at the same time, I am a designer. Like, balance is what can make and break a game. You can put billions of dollars into VFX, sound, everything else, art, story. If the balance of the game is bad, the game is bad. That's it. Balance is by far the most important thing in any game ever. As soon as answers are forced or answers are just too easy to come by, the game goes to shit. The one Nickelodeon game. What was the one Nickelodeon game with all the cartoon characters? The SpongeBob one. That game in the fighting community went massive. Multiverse, there you go, thank you. Multiverse was insane for the first week or so. And then it fucking died. It died harder than something like Game of Thrones at the end. All-Star Brawl, there we go. Thank you. Yeah, Multiverse is the one that's actually going well. All-Star Brawl is the one that's going... Guys, it was the biggest game for a week, and then died. And everyone's like, no one talks about it. What happened? What happened was that every hero or every character felt the same. There were some issues with like sound effects and all this other stuff, but every single character played the same. It was balance that doomed it. And you're talking a game that had everyone talking, everyone playing, millions of people doing this, and then in a week gone. Balance. Nothing else can tank a game that fast. Junkrat. Hey, here we are. Junkrat has been a menace in pub tier medal ranks for years, switching to Overwatch 1. But it seems he just became a gigantic pain in the ass at every single level of play. The mind change helped with some of his more salt-inducing one-shots, but are there any future changes that the team is considering? Junkrat has moved quite a bit since his latest nerf 2 weeks ago, down 3 to 4%, both the highest ranks and at the medal ranks. For those of you that don't know, Blizzard talked about their rank, their percentage win rates and what they call like good and bad. Like they're aiming for 50%. They're okay with 52 to 40, like 48 to 52. That's okay to them. If anything goes outside of those ranks, or those percentages, they start looking at it pretty seriously. So, if Junkrat was overperforming, they would have given that as a reason to nerf it. But they didn't. So my guess is Junkrat was around 48 to 49% win rate. And if he just lost 3 to 4%, he's down to 44 to 45% win rate. That is getting to the point where it's like they get worried about the hero and what they did to it. So I'm predicting a damage increase of his primary attack by 5 or 10 damage within the next one. That would allow him to kill McCree and Brig again, because right now, if you don't know, Junkrat cannot combo McCree or Brig or Symmetra. So I would expect that to kind of come back into play. It would also give his air shot a little bit more viability, because right now, like, if you're off by like 0.4 meters on your concussive mine, you can't, even if you air shot, they don't die. It sucks. Like, the biggest skill expression of Junkrat has kind of been removed. Not removed, but significantly nerfed. And I know people are like, oh, but you have to just be more accurate, and that's skill expression. I'm like, alright, let's nerf Widowmaker to require 2 headshots to kill someone now. Well, you have more skill expression, you just gotta hit him twice. Right? Easy. And people are like, oh, but that takes... I don't care, like, treat everyone equally. So what they one change they want to make is Junkrat's grenades have a smaller hitbox after bouncing off a wall. Now, I wonder if wall is the very specific word they're using. Because off a wall and off the ground are different things. If it was off a wall, I'd be fine with it, because I actually use ground bounces quite a bit. I use wall bounces quite a bit, too. Especially when hit scans are dominant. You actually can't peek them. You have to ricochet to get a shot. We believe this change would alleviate a lot of the pain points when facing Junkrat and still keep his gameplay rewarding. No timeline, though, as it involves multiple teams. So they need some actual tech for this. If they do this change, I would expect them to give some compensation buff, because Junkrat's already at a low win rate now. And if you're actually changing this, which is fine, it is a nerf, though. What do you give him back for? Would he get nothing? With his current loss or win rate at 44%, and if this change hit, they would have to give him something. Everyone's really doom and gloomy about Junkrat because everyone fucking hates him, and so does Blizzard. But I do think they will give him something back, just because he'll drop so low that they gotta do something. We heard recent few times, hero design and balance teams are working towards reducing pain points, CC, one-shots, etc. There have been criticisms / observations that new heroes are much more flexible than older, more simple, honest heroes. What have you learned from Overwatch 2 that will inform you about your hero design? We've been revisiting some of our hero design philosophies and seeing how they line up with Overwatch 2. One of the core pillars we have when developing a new hero is counterplay in mind. By the way, counterplay should not be swapping your hero. Counterplay should be a tactic you're allowed to do against that hero. Heroes should have a clear strengths and weaknesses, as well as space for situational upsides. Some of our recent heroes may have been doing too many things well on launch and without those weaknesses to offset their strengths. Sojourn. Kariko. As we look to the future, it's quite easy to look at the positive feedback surrounding added complexity in the heroes kit and continue down that path. For us, though, creating Overwatch heroes will always be about variety and making sure there are a lot of different playstyles with varying amounts of complexity. We tend to look at over the course of the year, balancing those 3 hero releases, and so then there's a healthy mix of playstyles. Okay, so they look at differences within heroes like throughout the year release. Like, they went some complex, some non-complex. The thing is Overwatch heroes will always be about variety and making sure there are different playstyles. Quotation that are acceptable to the community. Right? If you make more heroes like Junkrat or Moira, no. Even if they're balanced. In fact, if they're balanced, everyone will want them nerfed. They want them below than average. So, understand that variety and different playstyles must fit to the meta and what the community dictates, and not what, like, normal people want. Right? Which blows. I think they should start releasing heroes even if the community doesn't like them. As long as they're balanced, That's fine. Goes on Cassidy's rework / updates to his kit. They want more utility from him. The buffs in the recent patch helped a ton on damage. Cassidy's a fucking monster right now. Grenade is awful to play against. There's something we are actively working on and have tinkered with iterations internally. The overall goal is to bring back some lost synergy in Cassidy's kit. Example, Fan the Hammer, losing some of its ease of use. Magnetic Grenade is rather flat in what it does, and while some abilities can be in this space. Cassidy's kit already has a lot of simplicity, making Magnetic Grenade a prime candidate for adjustments. We won't be in a full stun mode like Flashbang, but we are looking at ways to push Magnetic Grenade into an ability that either enables Cassidy to line up more shots or provide newfound utility. As long as he doesn't slow or stun, what I think Cassidy should get is a 10-meter, essentially, cluster bomb that he throws. It blows up if it hits the ground or a hero or goes 10 meters, and it puts a bunch of caltrops on the ground. You can make it do more damage to armor and shields just to make it interesting, but if someone steps on the caltrops, it disables movement abilities for 2 seconds. This would allow him to do a little bit of area deny and allow him to control space around tracers and whatnot. So basically, it allows him to hit his shots because they can't use mobility abilities. I think Cassidy right now is way too easy. He is way too good. He's insane. Season 4's hero. You have to wait a little longer. I'll echo something Aaron said earlier, that the next hero will have a really exciting ways of interacting with your team. I just hope it's not something weird like damage boost or like attack speed boost. You know what I mean? Like, okay. I'm a little scared because Blizzard's really shit at this. But it could be really good. It could be really interesting. Could be like shared life or something. Forcibly teleport people around. Yes. That's up there. And that could be really bad. Also, people complain about snipers, and I wouldn't doubt if the next couple supports are good against snipers. I have 2 questions. Is Moira going to get some kind of soft rework? And do you think the Mercy changes, to be more specific, GA cooldown nerf was a good or bad change? You don't want the core part of a hero's kit / playstyle to be changed with buffs and nerfs, so Mercy cooldown nerf was a really big one. It wasn't well received by Mercy because most of it feels sort of clunky. It's funny, I love how people consider nerfs clunky. People will call anything clunky. Because it's like, it's inappropriate. Oh, I'm a designer. Something's clunky. Oh, you don't want to make a hero feel clunky now. Oh, Junkrat with his mind nerf, that's clunky. It's like people, whenever they get a nerf and they want to seem intelligent, they say clunky, and it's real fucking dumb. I will say though, Mercy's role to me was evasion healer, and she was a consistent healer specifically. So the change, they would say, oh, then her what I think her core idea was, they removed. And I'm like, no, she's still an evasive healer, she's just less evasive. Which is fine. Instead of being immensely evasive, she's just massively evasive. We'll cover the Mercy questions in another reply. The Moira conversation can be tricky as she sought out playstyle for many supports, but she still lacks the utility wanted in support role. The Necrotic Orb changed in the beta, it broke Moira's flow and pushed her to a passive direction. So there's things we want to keep intact with any future changes. Moira still having this identity of being able to dish out damage, though maybe tuned down just a tad, and remain a comfort pick for many players, as well as preserving her current flow. It's a tough challenge, so we'll see where this ends up going. Cool. Can you show unmirrored win rates across all heroes and ranks? I like seeing the data even though it's rarely shown. Very good question. And they give a really bullshit answer. One of the things we are currently working on is bringing the community into the fold more on the data we are seeing. We want to inform our players as best we can in order to have better discussions around balance changes and the reasons behind them. That said, we don't want to be in a place where we publish all current live data, as that can have a very unwanted meta effects. If players feel stuck playing meta heroes at times, having an official live data could only further cement those sorts of feelings. Even if players can have success on a wide range of heroes, data only tells part of their story when considering the experience of playing with or against a hero. So what y'all will continue to see are some data shared in live streams, retrospectives that tell stories of hero performance over a season, and quick updates on the top performers in a particular meta. Hopefully these initiatives start to spark more fruitful conversations surrounding hero balance. We'll also look at new ways to share generated data and win rates in the future. No, Raccoona, overbuff's a bunch of bullshit. Overbuff is not. I cannot state this hard enough. There is no public API for Blizzard. No one has any way to get data from Blizzard officially. All Overbuff is it does a scan of your Battle.net account. Which, if you log into Battle.net and you log into your account and you have your statistics page, if you have a public profile, anyone can view that. That's what Overbuff pulls in and then does their own bullshit calculations to say stuff. So no, it's not the public API. I will say this one has a really, really good you can't handle the truth. Yeah. And this guy, if this is true, and if someone could correct me on this, is that League of Legends shares all data and has an effect like you're talking about. I would love to know if it does. Because if it does, that's really interesting. But yeah, it is a bit bullshit that they don't give all the data, I would say. We will now look at Associate Game Designer, the tests. This is where those first two ones were the better ones. This one's a little bit more interesting, and they're just like, what's your philosophy on health pools? It's a very, very. I've actually talked about this, but it's a very generic answer. It's like, oh, health amounts is a great tool to utilize. Characters like Reaper or May, who thrive in close-range combat, can utilize their large amounts of health to help mitigate the risk of approaching close-range fights. Varying health amounts can also help provide favor to a character. Tracer has a low amount of health because she's quick and nimble. Yet Torb is more because he's heavily armored. It's so fucking cool. Why are Orisa and Junkrat so easy to play and get so much value out of their kits? Yet Reinhardt and Wrecking Ball are harder to play with much less value. This guy's he's smoking something, because I'll tell you what, I can get a lot of value out of Reinhardt doing the dumbest shit possible. And this is just a very PR answer. Every character is going to get varying amounts of value at different time investments. Some characters like Wrecking Ball require more. Player gets less value at the start, but then gets more. And then it happens the other way. Not every character's value increases over time is linear. Mercy gets a lot of value from new players because of their ease of use with their staff. But the value for time investment will fall off fast unless players dedicate themselves to mastering or moving a position. We think it's important to have characters that have varying value curves for difficulty to serve different purposes. Many people who never play FPSs or even video games before got into Overwatch because of characters like Mercy. On the flip side, many players love devoting themselves to difficult or complex heroes, and we wouldn't be able to create a rewarding experience for them without characters like Wrecking. It's fine. Okay, so this will get a lot of flack. I think game design now and in the future has to not care about skill floors and skill ceilings. And the first game that does it is going to become such a massive hit that everyone will play it. People should make heroes. Designers should make characters and heroes or players, or whatever you want to say, that have viability equal across the top. Now that's not possible, but that's your goal. Skill floors and skill ceilings shouldn't matter at all. You shouldn't even consider skill floors and skill ceilings. If someone gets more value out of an easier hero, oh well, okay, cool. But that easier hero has, their strengths and weaknesses. And as you play against it more and more, you'll find its weaknesses and find its strength and be able to fight against it bad. Yeah, skill floors and skill ceilings. The more I hear about it, the more I think it's it's one of the worst things to happen to gaming. What do you think about hero passives? This is just really PR stuff. They're like, oh, passives can be strong because of no cooldowns, but passives can be weak because, they don't do a lot. Blizz Winter is system designer. So, what are we doing about match levers in the reharder tournaments? Punishments, we really need to incentivize leaving games, especially at the end of competitive seasons. We're considering making, and actually I didn't even know this was possible, but we're considered making rank penalties partially carry over from season to season. So right now they don't. Guys, if you fucked off at the end of the season, you were never punished for it at the start of the next. That's mind-boggling to me. So yeah, ranked or unranked, they're going to have punishments for leaving. Overwatch 2 is very one-sided. Most of this is convinced is caused by poor matchmaking. But is it? How much is actually a byproduct of the faster and more punishing gameplay in Overwatch 2? It's a complex issue. We do suspect some aspects of Overwatch 2 can lead to the game feeling more one-sided. We've been looking at all sorts of issues that affect how one-sided our games are. We know that levers cause matchmaking to feel bad in quick play because our priority is to get a player into the match as quickly as possible. And this doesn't always mean the player is backfilled as a good fit for the match as the one that's left. I think we can improve that process here in the future. Not a big deal, whatever. Addressing more punishing gameplay specifically, we know that getting back spawned or spawn killed if your spawn room just shut down due to an objective capture are bigger swings since we have fewer heroes in the match. We are working on a solution that for Season 4. They've talked about this openly. We know there isn't a silver bullet for solving the issues of one-sided matches, but we're attacking the problem from several angles simultaneously. And they are working on the matchmaker too, so I get it. If you consider reworking the coin line challenge, it can be extremely tedious to win 5 arcade games, especially with Mystery Heroes being removed from the pool. It can be frustrating to play. Coin line is being replaced with win 5 games in Mystery Heroes, free-for-all, deathmatch, or any arcade mode, with the mid-season patch along with other weekly challenge changes. I will say this is really fucking annoying, the win 5 arcade games. Fix for seasons, prior seasons ranks disappearing. Should be fixed. Last time we got official rank distribution was in 2018. Is there any shot we get a new distribution or confirmation that it's the same in Overwatch 2? Due to the SR system, SR decay system we launched with Overwatch 2, our SR distribution curve was noticeably shifted left, meaning that there were more lower ranked players than higher ranked players. Of course, because we got 2 million or whatever, how many millions of players injected into the community when the only people that played were really dedicated at the end of Overwatch. It was probably just like a bell curve because they had so many data points. And then like fucking 5 million people, 10 million people just start playing again. Everyone's going to be bad, so the bell curve, instead of being in the middle, is going to shift that way. Most players did not play enough games for their SR and their MMR to converge. In Season 3, we made several changes that shifted the curve back to the right, meaning that we moved back towards our intended distribution of ranks, to begin correcting for SR Decay's removal at the start of Season 4. Fortunately, our MMR distribution curve has remained the same, meaning that our ability to predict outcomes and make the best matches can remain unchanged. So this is why everyone's saying, I can, like, get higher rank really fast now. Like, I was Masters 4, and now I'm GM2. Like, what's going on? So it seems like your SR, your rank, is going to change greatly this season, but your hidden MMR is still going to put you in games where you should. So even though you may be GM3 or GM2, it may be placing you in master level games because SR is a little bit wacky right now because they force the bell curve to the right, which is really stupid. The bell curve should just kind of work as it should, and that's about it. I do kind of like this one. It's like, generally speaking, we have plenty of players in all roles and almost all ranks. Since there's some sort of scarcity going on, which the matchmaker is heavily compensating for. Is it along the lines of Scenario A, an abundance of gold, silver support players, but not enough for platinum above. B, enough rare players per role, but substantially different playtime per role. Feels like the community isn't really aware of what the root causes of these matchmaking issues are. And he's like, neither A nor B. Shut up, kid. Our wider matches aren't because of any type of scarcity, they're because the criteria we use to reject candidates are currently a bit too simple. We're adding some tuning knobs to correct this. Can you make SR visible again? I'm getting rolled every game. I like to know if I suck or if it's the matchmaking. We're removing SR decay, meaning in most cases your SR and MMR will be the same. So that should help directly with the issue. We're working on a way to display the percentage of players in your division that you are ranked higher than. So you have a more accurate picture of progressing towards ranking up. Currently, in many low lobbies, we'll see Master Challenger title players and freak out. This is a really weird one. I mean, I get that this is a thing, but this is a very weird one. Low lobby players will see a Masters Challenge title player and freak out, despite that title being earned in another role or mode. Has the team been thinking of ways to reduce this confusion, either by showing ranks or changing the title's name to reflect the role mode they earned it on? Like, it's such a weird issue to me because, like, I don't give a fuck what someone's card says. Usually, if I see like a Masters Challenger, I'm like, this guy's a fucking loser. Like, that's what he puts. Like, that's what he's showing off is his silver medal or his bronze medal. Like, what a lame ass. Now, there was Dyslexia who was showing off his Diamonds Challenger because, like, he fell so hard on Sim. That's funny. That's a good one. Like, having a Diamond Challenger and everyone else being top 500, like, that's the proper use of the label thing. But it's so weird to me because this doesn't matter at all. But I can understand that some people do take this into account. And I can see that being a confusing point and all of that. So it is good that it gets addressed. It's just, I really have to take a step back and start understanding it from other people's point of view. It's super easy to progress in ranks at the moment, yada, yada, yada. Two issues at play here. First, we have reduced SR decay this season and increased the rate that SR decay is removed when you win games in preparation for removing the systems entirely for Season 4. This means that players are reaching their true ranks more quickly than ever before in Overwatch 2. Overwatch 2 really does have a different metagame and emphasizes different skill sets than Overwatch 1 did, so it is inevitable that some players will find themselves higher ranked in Overwatch 2 than they did in Overwatch 1. That's true. The second is that our first two seasons had small amount of unintentional SR deflation, so we've mostly corrected that issue in Season 3. At the highest ranks, like GM where you and your friends are, we've learned that we've had an inaccuracy in our formula that resulted in an overcorrection. Okay, so there are some SR things going on, including the bell shift that they're forcing, but, you know, apparently they're working it. That is it.